Whether you're married or single or poly or ace, or hanging out with swingers back at your place, listen to us as we give no fuck on Tinder and Bumble and plenty of yucks, trying and having no luck, because we all know dating kinda sucks. Sarah and Adam are two of a kind. He says stupid shit and she doesn't mind. They're not doing this show to make any buck. Life as a chicken whose feathers they pluck. Why does it work? Well, here is the crux. They both know dating kinda sucks. Dating kinda sucks.
Hi, I'm Adam Heath Avitable.
And I'm Sarah.
This is Dating Kinda Sucks, a podcast about dating, sex, and relationships. This week, we'll be having a conversation about porn and comedy with our guest, Kate Kennedy. Enjoy the show.
Man, I don't know about you, but that was a great conversation we had with Kate, and we are so excited for you guys to listen to it with Kate Kennedy. She is a former adult film star, a current online content creator, comedian, writer, and podcast host, to name a few things she does.
Yeah, it is funny how much I identify with Kate, because she is also another, what I would say, a jackass of all trades. Like, she does so many different things. It's all about creating content. And we had an absolute blast just kind of talking with her about all of the things that she's done, including porn, comedy. Like, it's amazing how many different things she has her finger or thumb in.
I feel like she's lived dirty. I was going to say, I feel like she's lived so many lives, and she's what, 27, I think?
27, 28.
Almost 28, yeah. I was like, damn, I feel like I'm talking to someone so much older than me. Like, I'm just like, you're so experienced in this and this and this, and really working behind the marketing brain of marketing porn and doing this and breaking into new industries, which I thought was really insightful.
It's educational to just show how much you can apply your education and your degree and your experience to any field, no matter how much there might be a stigma about it or otherwise, and you can make it into a success for you.
Well, we think you're really going to enjoy this conversation with myself, Adam, and Kate Kennedy, and we'll be right back after this short break.
I like your setup too.
Thank you. Yeah, this is I'm actually moving soon, so I'm really sad, but this is my podcast studio that I spent like all last summer building.
Right. I remember seeing that on Twitter.
And yeah. I am such a fan of the Kennedy Assassination. I've been listening to a handful of episodes, and I just have to say, the people that you had on and your responses to their shitty comments and whatnot, I was dying laughing.
Thank you so much. That was like the hardest project to do, and I was really sad when it died, because like everyone just figured out what I was doing. And so the first like 10, I like did them all at once. And so they didn't know. And then once it started to come out, I was getting messages from, like, I still get messages being like, I can't believe you did that to me. Like, fuck off. And I'm like, I told you.
I don't understand.
This is what it was.
Hold on. Let's get into the episode, because I actually want to talk about this stuff.
We could just keep going with this, really.
Well, I feel like we'd like to let Kate say hi as well before we start. Maybe just to...
No, I think we're fine to go.
Okay. I didn't know we needed to get into it, but so let's dive into it then, because I think Kennedy Assassination was one of those things that we're both huge fans of, and so let's talk a little bit about that.
It was such a dinky little show, and now when people come up to me and we're like, I loved that, I like get so many butterflies. So thank you. It makes me really happy, because that was my first podcast I ever did, like, as the host. I did all of it myself. Like, I didn't have anyone editing, anyone booking. Like, it was just me responding to every mean comment that a man has ever left me on the internet and asking them to come on my podcast to talk about it. And what don't you like about me? And it was very good for my ego, because I was spending hours like on YouTube, on Pornhub, replying to like every single, like, do you want to come on my podcast? Do you want to come on my podcast? Like, trying to DM these people. Like, if it was a really good comment, I would try to like find them on other social media to see if I could get in touch.
The nastiest comment that you think you've seen that then you asked them to be on your show?
There was a bunch of them that didn't come on, but that thought, I think one of them did, that thought I was a sociopath. So that was really fun. One of the comments was like, she's like Ted Bundy with great tits. Like, I want to have you on my show so badly. I think my favorite episode of that is the dick pic dentist. He's like this dentist from like India, and he was sending me dick pics like from his chair, like in his office.
Wow.
And I was like, while at work. And I was like, do you see why this is wildly inappropriate? He goes, no, I just think you're really pretty. And I was like, but do you see why this is weird? And he was like, but I think you're pretty. And I was, it's like just like 5 minutes of me back and forth, and he just keeps saying I'm pretty.
You think
And
you're
like,
pretty, so a dick is the apparently the appropriate response.
Yeah. That was a crazy one. It was interesting too, because it wasn't like podcast people. It was just like random men from the internet. So I did an interview with this guy who was like working in like a truck shop, and his dog kept barking in the background, and someone was yelling at him to pass a wrench, and he's just like on the podcast with me. Yeah, it was an interesting mix of people. It was a really fun project. If I can ever figure out a way to, I also found out too, is that like I'm not quite famous enough to do a show like that. Like I don't have enough people that hate me. So if I can ever bring it back in some capacity, it was such a fun project to do. And it taught me a lot too. Like I'm really glad I had those 10 episodes to kind of like fuck it up. And then I went on to do like other slightly more professionally produced shows.
No, I think what you did was great, and just calling out the misogyny and all of these men who thought that they were something behind a screen. And then you're like, so tell me really why? Why do you hate me?
Why are you like this? Like, give me, because it's just the psychology behind that is so bizarre to me. And like, I was genuinely interested, like, what has to happen in your life that you go online and like make these mean, like, why is this entertaining for you? Why is this interesting? What are your actual like critiques? Because if you have critiques about me, I am all ears. I have many flaws and I am very open about them. So like, I just was very curious, and some of the answers were actually pretty good.
I think it's like that mentality when men say shitty things to women and then immediately back off. Oh, it's just a joke. Calm down. And the best way to like continue that defense of that is like, so what's the joke? Can you explain it to me? Well, what was funny about that? And they never have an answer for it. They get very shitty about it, very defensive. And you took that entire concept to an entire like level podcast. And when you say that you were, that people figured out what you were doing, I never thought it was a secret. I just was like, no, we're just going to get to watch these people try to explain themselves and watch you tear them apart on air.
And I was very open. Like I sent these guys like paragraphs of stuff. I was like, this is what the show is. And I was very honest about it. She was like, I am not trying to attack you. If you listen to the show, like I don't go into attack mode. Like at no point do I play back. I just am genuinely curious. I want to talk to you. And I really appreciated the guys that didn't do that like pussyfoot back down thing and would actually hold their ground and be like, no, actually, I think you're kind of egotistical. And I'd be like, that's kind of fair.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
And you can't do what you do and not have an ego. Like you
not
have to
ego.
have an ego.
I was like, that's totally fair. Honestly, if anything, it probably helped me relate to people a little bit better.
That's
like also too, you'd get into them and like I almost 9 times out of 10, the guy was like lonely or didn't have a lot going on. Like I think the things that we hate in other people tend to be projections of the things we don't like about ourselves. And that
absolutely.
was very much the case. So it was interesting. Most of the episodes honestly ended pretty well with them being like, you're not so bad. Like, actually, thanks for taking the time to talk to me. I'm like, all right, cool.
It was more like a therapy session. It was a therapy session at the end.
Yeah.
It's like Sarah Silverman, I think, did that too, where she would like meet with people and try to find common ground and realize that. And I think that a lot of these kind of keyboard warriors too, they are very tough when they're hiding behind the shield of anonymity. But when they actually have to talk about what they're saying, a lot of times they aren't really. They're not going to stick to it. They just had a random thought, decided I'm going to put this on the internet for some reason, and then are trying to figure out why is everybody mad at me, and then they can't defend themselves, and they know it was an undefensible statement that they made in the first place.
Yeah, it's just it's just interesting to me, like the whole psychology behind it, and like, yeah, the guys were interesting. And then I went on to do a show where I interviewed cam girls who were like the nicest people on the planet. So it was a big jump between those two.
And when you use cam girls, as in like people who work on like Chatterbait and sites like that, like specifically those types?
So I did Cam Girl Chronicles for I'm Live. About this time last year, they came to me and they wanted to do they've done a few like safe for work, different kinds of things. And they wanted to do a podcast and it was super fun. I got to interview tons of their cam girls from like all over the world, from like Romania and Colombia, different parts of the US. And I just talked to them about what their lives were like, what they like about their jobs. And it was so interesting to get like an international perspective on that too. Like how they consider like, especially online sex work, which is what I do, like in a different country, especially in like Eastern Europe, like the attitude is so different. And it was just really fascinating. And the girls were all so well spoken and intelligent and just funny. Like that was such a neat experience.
From culture to culture, what was like the biggest thing that you noticed? Just like the attitude or the personality behind different cultures?
Definitely how open, especially in like Romania, because like so Romania and Colombia are the two like number one emerging cam markets in the world. That's where like most tons of cam girls are from there. And it was just super fascinating to talk to them about like how open and how much of a business it is for them. Like I think in the US, there's like the attitude of like, oh, if you're a cam girl, like you go into your room and you just do it by yourself at home. Like they go to studios, these like beautifully designed, they look like a Vegas casino, like a sound stage where there's separate rooms. All of the audio equipment is there. They have like a commissary, a nail tech, a hair person, like makeup. And they like go to work for their shift and do their show, and then they come home. And it was just so interesting. A lot of them were supporting family members, like whether it was their parents or children. And they really like just look at it like any other job where it's like, oh, this is so flexible for me. I can still take care of my kids. I can make much more money than I could make doing something else. And so I think that's kind of universal, but I just loved it. Felt like there was so much less stigma around the way that they talked about it, which was just fascinating. I like really want to go to Romania and like visit these places.
It sounds interesting. It sounds almost like a strip club environment where you go in there and they have like the house mom that does the makeup, and they have the woman with the outfits that you can choose from and all of that. But once again, the strip clubs also have that stigma as well here in the US.
Yeah, it was just totally different and really interesting to talk to them about it and kind of like glimpse into their world of how that works. And we got to play a bunch of like fun games and do different competitions. And it was super fun. That was one where I actually got to work with like real ass podcast producers that like make radio and like know how to do this. So I learned so much about like how to structure a podcast, like how to make a show, like the booking of it. I mean, the producers were in New York, the girls were in Bucharest. I'm in LA. So I was up at 4 a.m. Like I had to be on camera at like 5 o'clock in the morning because of the time difference to be doing these interviews. And like these girls are arriving for work, right? So they look fucking perfect. And they're all tall, blonde, like former Soviet, like I'm like, you say what now? Hello. Good morning, guys. Kennedy.
You're not a morning person that much, are you?
Not a morning person. Not at all. I'm very much a night owl completely.
Right.
Yeah.
Sarah?
Oh, no. Yeah. I've just been really interested in also just how you got into the industry from start to where you are now, doing more of the OnlyFans route and then comedy as well.
Yeah. So I like my path in the industry is so weird. I've never met anyone else that like got into it this way, but I was like a year out of college and my background is I have 2 bachelor's degrees, but one of them is in advertising with a focus in social media and digital brand strategy. And I couldn't find a job. I was living in Denver. I was super miserable. I was doing like lifestyle BDSM. So I worked at a dungeon like a couple of nights a week. I like checked IDs and made sure there was snacks. It was not sexy. Like I redid their bathroom at one point because it's very like community collective kind of. And so I was doing that, and I had started doing like a little bit of the like really artsy like shibari rope bondage kind of modeling, just like pictures and stuff. And I went up to, and I was teaching some classes. I was like doing some live performances, and I went up to Portland in 2017 for Kink Fest. And we just went for fun. I ended up meeting these people that own Insects, which is a big BDSM porn studio up there. And a few months later, they emailed me and were like, hey, we need a new marketing person. Would you like a job in the industry? And I was like, gonna break up with my boyfriend in Denver. Like life was just kind of at a wall. I was like, you know what? Fuck yeah, that sounds really fun. So I like packed up my car, moved to Portland, like didn't know anybody. I worked there for a year behind the scenes, and I also danced at night because it's Portland. There's tons of strip clubs. So I was like getting into it, and they're like, you know, if you want to shoot, you can shoot some stuff for us. So I shot my first scenes for them, which was great because it was everyone I already knew. It was like not intimidating at all. And had a lot of fun. And then I'd gone to AVN in 2018, and I had met somebody from an agency, and they were interested. So I came down, I shot in LA for like a week in March, and it went well. And so I packed up and I came down to LA in June of 2018, and I just started performing in like mainstream porn. And I did that consistently for 2 years before the pandemic started. And then once the pandemic hit, my OnlyFans had started to take off like a lot of people's, and there was some questions about testing. We didn't really know with the COVID where it was going to go. So I was like, I'm just going to, and comedy had been taking up more and more of my time. And I was like, I'm just going to step back from professional performing, do my own stuff, and then focus on stand up. So yeah, it's been a wild ride.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me because I would say like in most industries, you would want to you start amateur, then you go professional, and you want professional because that's where all like, it's all done right, essentially. Yeah. And even like comedy, like you start off as an open micer, and then you want to eventually go somewhere where, you're a constant headliner for clubs, etc. And it's interesting that porn might be the other way, that you went professional and then you're like, you know what, I'm better off being amateur. What was the mentality behind that?
Well, when you're building, I mean, a huge part of my whole thought on it was, right, because like porn, no matter how good you are at it and how much you like it, it's not going to be forever. Right. Whether something else happens in your life or you just age out. I knew I didn't want to get my boobs done. So I knew I was never going to be a MILF. I like had a clock, and I got into it older too. I was 24 when I started performing, which is quite old for a teen. I've been pretending I was 18 since I was 25.
Okay, gotcha. I was wondering what your genre was.
Yeah, I look, I'm 27, I'm almost 28, and I still look very young. So I did a lot of teeny bopper, the little babies that are horny old grandpas, kind of stuff. But no, I mean, it was always that I wanted to build up a fan base online, and I like very specifically went into it with this idea because I'd seen people go through it before. Like working behind the scenes was so helpful for that, where I was like, okay, if you can build up a big enough fan base, a loyal enough fan base that will support you, not just in creating your own content, like amateur content, but also in any other endeavors you want to go into, whether it's podcasting, or I know of people that do like Etsy shops, stuff like that. It's like, you want to create a really dedicated fan base. So that was kind of the goal for me with porn, was like, especially professional porn, like Brazzers has 500,000 followers. Pornhub has millions of followers on Twitter. So if they tweet you and they tag you in a tweet, you blow up also. So that was kind of the goal for me, was like, work until you can work for yourself and just transfer this, which I think is true of a lot of like online economies now. Like you want to build up your fan base till you can take it wherever you want to go.
And that's probably, if anyone was starting out in OnlyFans and wanting to go that route, is just build that fan base up and then go from there before making it a full-time gig.
What I tell people with OnlyFans especially is that like, it's in the fucking name. Like you have to have fans.
Right.
Like, and I know people that have built up just an OnlyFans from nothing, but I do think that was kind of a one-off fluke with the pandemic because it was getting so much press. That like, if you were in, and I do a ton of like quote, like my PR guy will send me anything because he knows he'll get several quotes from me. And like, I just do anytime someone's asking, because if you're in Business Insider and GQ and the Daily Beast and the New York Post, like if you're like, your name comes up in those, the more press you can get, the better, the more reach you have. So you've
been interviewed by them, right? A few times.
I've been in all of it. I've been in Huffington Post. I've been in quite a few. And it's literally just because I answer. Right. Like I answer the fucking email. I'm like, yeah, here's my thoughts on this. Like, because people don't. And I also like write for Hustler sometimes. And like, it's like pulling teeth to try to get people to give you a quote. And I'm like, do you have any idea how valuable this is? Like, this is really good for your career. It doesn't seem like it just the one time, but when it's over and over and over again, and then people can Google you and you don't just come up as like Kate Kennedy on Pornhub, you're Kate Kennedy and all these other things. It makes people think that like you're an expert on this. Whether or not you are, it's easy to fool people. So yeah, I think that, you just have to, it's so much more helpful to be known for something else. And then to also have like kind of a diverse, like interests, hobbies, content online. Like if there's a million hot naked girls on the internet, there always will be. Right. But like, if you're the hot naked girl that also does Star Wars cosplay or renovates old houses, like that's something extra that people will remember you from, that it adds more brand value. So again, this is like my whole background. So I like literally went to school to be like how to be a really successful thought on the internet.
And have you been teaching other people on how to build their OnlyFans, or?
My DMs are always open to like new sex workers. I don't do anything like formally. There's a lot of people that do that I like highly recommend. I don't always like have the patience for it. My ADHD is kind of off the walls. So, but I'm always down to like give people advice, tell them, this is what I did. Like, and it's also too, everyone, like when you're selling something like that, any kind of influencer in any sphere, whether or not you have clothes on, like it's about you and your personality. So like I can tell you what worked for me. I don't know that it'll work for you. And I always preface that with everything that like advice I give people is that this is what worked for me, but you have to do like a brand analysis on yourself and figure out what it is about you that is so compelling, that is so interesting, that is so hot that people are going to want to keep coming back. And that's going to be a unique answer for each person.
Yeah, that's very true. I found that as well. And I think that it's a good, the people who tend to pay for things like, you know, the classes and things like that are usually the people sometimes that don't have that natural whatever it is that they need to ever succeed to that level as well.
Yeah. And like there's no substitute for hard work and for sticking with something, because you can still build up solidly as long as you're just working at it consistently. But like that whole understanding of how a brand works, what makes someone interested to come back. And like I was one of those kids too, like on the internet, like there was, I mean, this was very early, like YouTube days, like Tumblr days, but like there was girls that I was obsessed with that I just thought were like so cool. And so when I was trying to decide what that was going to be for me, I went back and looked at those people and was like, what was it about them that made me watch everything they ever put on YouTube, that made me follow their blog, that made me feel like I had that parasocial relationship with them. And I used that to try to construct my own. So
do you find that some of the trolls that you then interviewed on your podcast had an obsession with you, and that was like trolling you was part of their thing and relationship with you?
None of them were like that. I kind of tried to avoid people like that. I got a lot of replies being like, I'll come on and pretend to hate you. Like, I'll come on. I'm like, that's not what we're trying to investigate here. That's not what I'm super interested in. Like, I understand the psychology behind being like obsessed with somebody on the internet and like behind a parasocial relationship. And I do find parasocial relationships very interesting, but like on a large, like a macro scale. On a micro scale, they're not that interesting. It's usually just that someone's built something up in their head to be bigger than it is. And honestly, that's like a little uncomfortable because when you're on a pedestal, like the only place you can go is down. Like you can only possibly disappoint people. So I get a little uncomfortable when guys are like that with me. They're like, oh, you're so perfect. I want to marry you. Like I snore. Like
sure you want that, right?
Yeah, like I'm messy. Like I'm super like ask any of my ex-boyfriends how I am to live with. Like ask them. They will volunteer the information.
Go ahead, Adam.
I was saying, let's actually get into that a little bit with you as far as dating. Like how do you navigate dating? And just overall, like when you were doing professional porn and versus now, and with your whole, I mean, because you're obviously, I think we're okay to say this, that your name is not your real name. So like, do you date people with your real name? How does that all work?
So I've gone, Kate is actually my middle name. It's a short version of my middle name. So I've actually gone by that since like later in college, because my real name is very common. Kate's common too, but my real name is even more common. And I never really liked it. I really prefer Kate. So everyone knows me. And I do comedy as Kate too, Kate Kennedy, because I have almost 60,000 Twitter followers. I'm not going to like restart the brand.
Right.
It took forever. So I mean, people know me as Kate Kennedy. I'm open about like what my real name is with like my friends and stuff, but I do ask that they don't call me that, one, because it's confusing, and two, because I'm like, I mean, it's not exactly like this, but I do compare it with like my like trans friends. I'm like, you wouldn't call them by their dead name. Please don't do that to me either. It does bother me. I really prefer to go by Kate. But as far as like dating goes, I had just broken up with somebody when I got into porn. Great relationship. We're still very good friends. I joke that I've never broken up with a guy before introducing him to either his new fiance or his new psychiatrist. I'm a great ex. So I'm friends with almost all of my exes, save like one. I'm still pretty close with them. We talk and everything. I haven't really had, aside from like one bad breakup ever. But I purposely did not date while I was doing professional porn. Like that was a choice that I made on purpose. One, because I was getting really good sex already. Great. Didn't really have to talk to the people before I had sex with them.
Right.
Awesome. Didn't have to convince anybody. I was like, you have to bang me or you don't get paid. So this is perfect situation for me. And it was just like, I think too, because I did the one relationship I kind of had while I was doing professional porn was like a fluke. I wasn't expecting it. And I sort of just met this person. We really hit it off. And it was like a long distance thing. But I came back and was like trying to work. And I mean, this is so sad, but I was like crying, like on sets. Like I just didn't want to have sex with anybody else. And it made it really hard for me to do my job. And that was really kind of a thing for me where I was like, oh, okay. I was getting a little older. I was 25 when we had met, and then like through 26. And that was when I started thinking like, okay, I need to start thinking of like my next step, because I do want to have a relationship. I want to date. Like I would like to get married someday. And my personal boundary is that I'm not comfortable being an active adult performer and having a relationship. It just doesn't work for me. Like I have so many friends that it does, that are happily married, have kids, have great relationships while performing in porn. And for me, it just didn't work. So that was another part of like moving towards just doing OnlyFans and being like, oh, because I have no problem with just like taking nudes. Like
Right.
I'll send them to the person like the people I date, I joke are my OnlyFans focus group. I'll like send them all my nudes. Be like, what do you think? Yeah, like gas me up. And he's like, oh, you're so hot. I'm like, thanks. But yeah, so that was a big thing for me. And so yeah, he and I kind of dated for a while. We're still friends. And now I've just been I just got broken up with a few weeks ago. So that was kind of a bummer, but all good.
And did when you have been dating, like maybe your last relationship, if you want to talk about it, was your OnlyFans fans or your fans ever an issue? Was that ever a problem, like a point of jealousy or anything?
No, because I'm very open about it. Like all my friends know that I do OnlyFans. Anyone that I would potentially date would definitely know about it right off the bat.
Right.
So it's like, if you're not comfortable, then that's cool. Let's just be friends. Like it's not, but I like joke to him, like, I'm not gonna, like, if you're an accountant, I'm not going to ask you to not look at another girl's taxes.
Right.
Like this is my job. Like it's different. Like it's not like it's just not the same thing as what I have like in an intimate relationship. But you definitely have to be okay with that. And actually my last relationship worked out kind of well because he's also a photographer and does a lot of like boudoir stuff. So it was great. He would take these like amazing nudes of me. And like my fans went wild for them. They'd be like, oh my God, these pictures are so good. And then when we broke up, and it was a good breakup, like he's just in love with somebody else. No harm, no foul. It wasn't a long relationship, like a 4-month relationship. Damn. We had a lot of fun. We'd like just gotten back from a vacation, and I actually had gotten COVID and was sick.
Oh no.
And I know. And he like wanted to come over, and I was like, I really don't feel good. Let's just do it. And he just told me on the phone, he's like, this girl I've known for 5 years came back into my life. I still have really big feelings for her. I didn't think this was going to happen. And I was like, honestly, like, good for you, man. Like, you're a great person. I'm really happy for you. I cried for like 5 minutes and was like, all right, I'm done.
You're still so nice though about it. Damn.
I know, like you got COVID and you call and he's like, oh, you have COVID. Oh, listen, I got to break up with you. Like that's the reaction. That's he saw his opening and took it basically. But
well, he was very mature, but he really was like, I really wish I could have come over. And I was like, honestly, I don't understand this whole thing people have to like need to break up in public. Because even if I wasn't sick and you'd come over, like you would have come over for like 5 minutes, broken up with me, and then had to leave. And it takes like 20 minutes to find parking at my place. Like, this is just inconvenient. Like, I'm not like looking down on you as a man or a person for not doing this. And this is just so much more convenient. We live in LA. Like, please do not cross the 405 to come break up with me. That's just too much.
So you're too nice. I'd be like, yes, drive to my house, waste your time, and then break up with me.
No, I'm really never like, and I'm moving anyways too. And I hadn't actually told him. I had like just been offered a job out of state that I'm going to take. And so I hadn't told him yet. And I was like, this is pretty convenient for me actually, because I have to move away. So, and I hadn't told you yet, but cool. This works out well.
Can you tell us where you're moving, or is it secret?
I am moving far away up north. I am not being specific on where I'm moving right now because it's a pretty small town.
Okay.
Be much, much different. I will be working in development and community building and affordable housing.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's exciting.
Very different. Yeah. It's near where my family lives. My extended family. I'm really excited to get to be, my grandma's getting older. My cousin is going to have a baby in the summer. So I'm going to get to be up near them. I'm actually buying a house, which is really exciting.
That is. I was about to ask, like, with you live in Los Angeles now, if like you are able to fully pay everything with your OnlyFans, like pay your bills well enough, To stay there. I was going to ask if you were going to like persistently stay there. Obviously that answers that, but you've been able to, if you're able to buy a house, that means you've been able to do well enough to see that as a future goal.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't something I had kind of been, I'm almost 28. I'll be 28 when I move. But it had been on my mind that I was like, I was like, well, I'll definitely stick it out in LA till I'm 30, like with the whole comedy stuff. It's kind of grueling, but I want to stick it through. But in my head, I've always wanted to have a little house. I fix up old houses. I like doing renovations, and that's just a couple acres or so, like a yard for my dog, a shop for my tools, something cute that I can fix up, has been on my heart for a really long time. And this just kind of presented itself as an opportunity. And I came back from this happened over Thanksgiving. And I came back from Thanksgiving and was like crying and was like so upset. I was like, this is too soon. This is too fast. Like I had more to do. I have great friends. I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. But like, I think sometimes things my life has kind of taken this trajectory where things have come up in my path and they never come up when I want them to.
Right.
But they're always the right thing. Like I really kind of live my life by that. I don't know if it's like fate or faith or trust or whatever. It's just that I kind of instinctively will know. It's like, oh, this is happening. This is the right thing. You have to go do this, go on to the next adventure. So for a while that meant that I would just keep uprooting my life like every 3 years to 6 months and moving across the country because I was bored and I like didn't want to do that again. But this time it's not because I'm bored. This time it's because I have something good to go home to. So
that's great. And then it's a good attitude too. Like if something presents itself, why not? Because you can always decide not to later on. Like you can always say no, you can always change it. So it's good to go with it while you can.
And that's something a lot of people, including like my mom, had said to me too. She's like, LA is not going anywhere. New York is not going anywhere. Like you can, and you're still young. I think too, I was just thinking about this earlier today, is that I think we need to stop telling people in their teens and 20s that life is short, because it is. But when you're in your early 20s, life is very long. You haven't lived most of it yet. It's incredibly long, and you're going to have decades longer where you have tons of energy and tons of ability to go do things. And so this idea that like, oh, I'm 23, I'm 25 and I'm stuck in this one place and I'm not going anywhere, that's just not true. Like you can go do something at 30, you can go do something at 40. Like it's never the end of the world.
That's really interesting you say that, just given how you got into porn later in like your career, in the standard career span. And you might have experienced girls who are saying, I can't do this for much longer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting so old already. And they were maybe 20, 21.
Yeah. Do you have any idea how long 5 years is? It's super long. Like you can be a ton of people in that time span. Like I will have had but I know by the time I'm old, I will have had so many jobs, lived in so many places, had so many friends. And like, as difficult as that sometimes is for me to feel like a little unrooted and like I'm constantly moving around and stuff, it's like the flip side is that I have friends all over the country, all over the world, that I get to see when they come through or when I'm in their city. And, you end up having this very rich like tapestry of your life with all of these experiences. And, I know that like doing porn and stuff closes some doors, but I never really wanted to be a kindergarten teacher. So I'm okay with that. But no, I don't regret anything. I mean, I've had so much fun and gotten to do like so many things that I just would not have gotten to do if those opportunities hadn't presented themselves and I hadn't been like brave or dumb enough to take them.
Definitely brave enough.
Sometimes dumb. Sometimes they were dumb. Like.
So obviously you can continue doing your OnlyFans wherever you are. But will there be a comedy scene? Because I know how much you enjoy comedy.
And this is like coming up, but I won't be doing OnlyFans.
Okay.
After I move. It's a public facing role in the community. So luckily I'm working for family who knows that I've done porn and are okay with that, but I can't currently be creating porn while I'm doing it, which is okay. So I mean, I'll keep it going until I move for sure, because it is how I pay all my bills. So please don't unsubscribe if you're listening to this. There's going to be a big bang up finale, I promise. And a lot of good deals, because I have so many pairs of underwear I need to get rid of. But as far as comedy, I mean, there is like a little comedy scene. I'm kind of excited to be at a place where I can just do it for fun because I can enjoy it. and just be creating anything. Just I think living in LA, it can be inspiring, but it also can be kind of a grind where you get to a point where you're just creating to keep up with other people, and not because you really want to create something, or not because you're passionate about it. And you're constantly, I know for me, like I constantly am feeling like my friend got this book deal and my other friend is doing this Netflix special, and so has just got staffed on this show, and I'm getting brunch, and like I'm not doing anything. So I'm really excited to have a little more time. Again, it's a small town, so I'm not going to be going out as much. Hopefully I'm going to save a lot of money. I honestly, just the fact that I'll be living somewhere where Taco Bell doesn't deliver to my house 20 hours a day, I will save so much money. So I'm thinking of, there's a few different side hustles I want to start. I have a new podcast that I'll be starting in February, which I'm pretty excited about doing. That'll just be my own little thing. And then I don't know. I mean, I do embroidery, I sew, I fix up old furniture. So there might be an Etsy shop. There might be a Substack for more writing. Maybe I'll finally finish this book I've been working on for years. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of hopefully have that time to pursue other stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like a great new chapter with a little less go.
Yes.
You'll still be doing a lot, but like not that added pressure of being in a certain area that's like churning out a lot of stuff.
And just getting to be around family too. Like, you know, my grandma's getting older. I really love spending time with her. So the idea that she'll be living 20 minutes away from me, so I can go pick her up on a Saturday, take her to lunch, and go to the Goodwill in the Value Village. And we like to thrift. So doing that kind of stuff, and, you know, getting to be there for my new little niece or nephew coming is very exciting. So yeah.
And you said that your family knows that you do it. How did that conversation go?
Someone sent my dad my Twitter account.
Oh no.
Porn, which is actually embarrassing because I was already doing my little funny haha jokes on there, and I was like, oh, it's not even my nudes. I'm just so embarrassed that like the last thing I tweeted was like a joke about Dick Cheney's dick or something. Like so it, you know, it was hard. We went to my mom and I still go to therapy once a month together. Which has been great. Go to therapy with your mom if she's not toxic. I mean, mine is sometimes, but it's still really good. We all went to therapy together for like 3 hours, like a year later, and just kind of had it out. And we still do. I mean, it's been a journey. I think it's honestly opened us all up to a lot of like communication that we weren't maybe doing so well through my childhood, and kind of has let us re-examine some of our relationships and codependencies that we've had with each other throughout the years. They're still not where I wish they were in terms of respecting sex workers and sex workers' rights. But my younger sister is, which is really cool. I made a video about OnlyFans and like Pornhub and the whole kind of situation that was happening about 6 months ago. And I posted it, and she texted me and was like, hey, I loved your video. You sounded so smart and cultured. Like, she's like, you're really like speaking up for people that really need it. And I really admire that. And I'm really proud of you. And I cried. I was like, you have no idea how much, like, I could tear up now thinking about it. Cause I'm like, how much that meant to me, someone in your family, you know, and someone that also too, because I have to acknowledge that as well, right? Is that I kind of made those choices to go off and do that. And that affected her life as well. And I was in my early 20s. I didn't really think about anybody else, but, you know, she got harassing messages from like people we went to high school with and stuff. Not that that's my fault, but it did make her life harder. And so I've kind of acknowledged that and apologized for that as well. So, you know, learning and growing together, it never stops.
Well, I think it's good because sometimes you worry, you're like, you just give up on the older generation. Sometimes you're like, you know, they're just not going to be as inclusive and accepting. But if the younger generation can start to appreciate that and get better and do better, then maybe there's a little bit of hope. Maybe.
Well, even in just terms of like talking with my parents of, you know, I might not be able to change your opinions about sex work, but if you really want sex work to not exist, then you need to examine the underlying causes of poverty and women's rights and trans rights and LGBTQ rights in our society that causes many of these people to see this as their only way out through like gross economic inequality. Like, you have to examine that. And they've started to look at that too. So I think a lot of it also is framing the conversation in a way that they can participate and understand it. So it's baby steps. It's always It's
Look at
just
you pulling them left. You're just pulling them left step by step.
it's amazing how far left they've come in the last few years. Thank you, Donald Trump, for that.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, my parents were like card carrying like Bush era Republicans, and they're now quite liberal. Well, my dad's Canadian, so he's always been a socialist, but he hates paying taxes. I've brought up how this doesn't make sense before, and he doesn't get it. But yeah. So interesting. I think they're both, my dad would definitely identify as more of a nihilist at this point. And I think I kind of share that.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I definitely grew up in a family that's very like charitably minded and very like mutual aid minded, which I really appreciate because that's something I carry with me, like with helping other sex workers and stuff. But I definitely, we didn't know at the time. I'm really sorry. My dad managed this, but I rang the bell for the Salvation Army for like 15 years. Like every Christmas had to do that. And we would do, yeah, he ran it in our town. We had to take all the extra shifts. My parents would just like abandon me at a rural Walmart at like 9 o'clock at night for hours when I was like 13.
Wow.
Yeah, good memories. But we always did a lot of like adopt a family, Christmas stuff. If anybody in our community was sick or had surgery, it's like, you bring them a casserole, you watch the kids, like you do just that kind of mindset. I'm really appreciative that they have and that, they passed on to me. So it's definitely a lot of the ways I live my life is I like helping people. So yeah.
You're helping them after you entered the industry and you're changing their lives too.
I would hope so. Yeah, too. I think sex workers are so about like mutual aid and we just keep passing the same money around our circle for whoever is in need. But it's just something I'm really passionate about too. I think especially being like successful in this industry and like being aware that like being successful, especially in online sex work in like an arena like OnlyFans, has so much to do with privilege. It has so much to do with the way you look, your education, the way you speak, the way you can understand like how these things work. And I'm like hyper aware that so much of that comes from privilege. So like I consistently try to be giving out, money and budgeting to help others within like my means on a regular basis. Cause it's not fair. The game is rigged.
It is. Just access to the internet, the knowledge to have the equipment, the knowledge of marketing and stuff like that. Like, I have friends that do that who, they look like they're shooting their content on a potato, and and it's awful, but it's like they're doing the best they can. And but if you can have the means to actually have the nice equipment that can help and everything.
The having the nice equipment, the time to research how to use it, to figure out how to do that, consistent internet access, a safe place to shoot your content. If you can't afford to live on your own or you're living with family, like that can be a stumbling block. And then too, also like when people are like, oh, you're like the girl next door. I'm like, do you live in the Jim Crow South? Like, I don't look like any of my neighbors.
Right.
That tells me something right away about what my demographic that I'm catering to is. And I get that. Like, I do get it. Or when people will be like, oh, I wish all sex workers were as like eloquent and well educated as you are. It's like, well, then why don't you just wish all people were? Then free college.
Right.
Like fucking like, fund public education. Then I don't know what else to tell you. Like my education is the result of enormous privilege.
Yeah.
So, and I also too kind of look at it as like, definitely, I think it's really good I think a lot of the conversations that we have about privilege are really poorly framed in a way where especially like white privileged people feel like they have to feel bad about it. And it's like, no, like you didn't ask for it. Privilege inherently is something that you have no control over. The only point is to acknowledge it and then try to use it to make the world a more equitable place around you. But there's no sense in sitting around feeling sorry for yourself or feeling like you're a bad person because of the circumstances in which you were born. You can't change that.
Right.
Yeah.
No, all you do is actually recognizing it as the first step. Once someone can recognize it and then appreciate it and not feel guilty, but actually use that to benefit others, that's the best you can do.
Yeah. And figure out is that like there are definitely certain people and certain publications that will listen to me before they listen to other people for whatever their own reasons are. So I really try to not only like give them my best, but also be very like outspoken about I might not know about this. I might not be the person to ask about this. Here's a list of 5 other names that you might not consider talking to that you should because they're experts on this. So spreading it around.
Amplifying other people's voices is very important.
Amplifying other people's voices.
Although I will say that YouTube video that you were talking about was excellent, and I feel like it should have gone, like it should have gotten even more traffic because it was outstanding. You nailed down all the details very well, and I thought that was a good way to do that too. It felt like a little news story.
I did a bunch of like research on it, and I know my traffic is like severely throttled on Twitter and on Instagram just because. More so Twitter than Instagram, just because I'm, sensitive content and stuff. And so I do always get a little bit bummed when I'm like, oh, if someone else had posted this, it would have gone viral, but reach as many people as you can.
Yeah, exactly. You posted. It's crazy when you put it's always the stuff you put effort into that never does as well as you want it to.
Yeah.
And it's like when you just do the little one-off thing that, that's when that goes well. And it drives me crazy.
Yeah, I didn't prep my hair. I didn't look the best in this one, but this goes viral. Great.
Right. Thanks, guys. Yeah. Awesome. Love it. Well, yeah, it's always my most low effort, like mirror selfies that'll get like 700 likes. And I'll take like a beautiful shot and like a framed picture and it gets like 35. And I'm like, God damn it. Like, all right.
Well, before we wrap this up, Sarah, did you have any additional things you wanted to chat about?
Not really. I just really wanted to know more about you and just where you were going in your career. And it sounds like, the next phase, I wasn't aware of like, the OnlyFans phasing out, but the next phase and where you're
This is kind of one of the first times I think I'm really talking about it. I have only known for about a month that I was even considering moving and all of this stuff. So I just told like my friends on New Year's Eve and was like, I like got to the party and was like, oh, right. I'm moving. And they were like, what? And I was like, oh, I thought you knew. Sorry. I don't know why I thought you knew. I didn't tell anyone, but I just assumed.
Right, just assumed they would just be aware.
Yeah. So it is one of the first things, but yeah, I do have a new podcast coming out next month, which will be very fun. It's called Faking It with Kate Kennedy, where we watch movies or read the books that we have lied about having watched or read in the past.
Yeah. That's great.
So, when you're at a party and someone's like, oh yeah, Scarface. I love Scarface. And you're like, yeah, me too. I definitely watched that. Say hello to my little friend. And then you change the subject because you didn't watch. So that'll be the podcast. Sometimes it'll be solo. Sometimes I'll have guests on. It should be pretty fun. So that'll be just my own little project that I'll be doing. And and then just people keeping an eye on my social media channels will not be going down, whether or not I'm creating. And I can't even tell you for sure that my OnlyFans will go down. I might just go to making safe for work content on it. So we will see as far as that goes. I just know I'm phasing that out because I need to go convince a bunch of grumpy old white people in a small northern town that building affordable housing would be good for them.
Right.
So, yeah.
I think that's fantastic, and everything that you have it's nice because you can go to the ogkennedy.com.
Mm-hmm. That is that's my OnlyFans. You can also go to my Twitter is at the OG Kennedy, and my link tree is linked on there, which has a link to like everything I do or have ever done.
Have you ever thought of making your website actually go to that, like the domain name go to that, so that you just have that?
So I do own semiprocockjockey.com. Wait,
hold on. What is it again?
Yeah, wait.
Semiprocockjockey.com?
Yes.
Okay. That's fantastic.
Thank you. Which was intended to be like a depository of like my writing as well as like other links. I have not historically been very good about keeping it updated. We will see how much better I can get about just being consistent with that kind of stuff. So we'll see where I go with all of that online. I know how to do it in my head. It's the actual sitting down and the doing it that I am not always super great at. So, yeah, I'm really one of those people where if you text me and you're like, hey, we're going here, I'm like, I'll be there 5 minutes. Like, I'm going to come out. And I don't have good self-control in that. So working on that in the new year.
Well, when you're in a small town, you won't be able to do that anyways. So.
Exactly. There won't be anywhere to go.
Yeah.
So no Taco Bell. There you go.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of nowhere, Vermont right now, and like literally there's nowhere. Like to go to town is a 25-minute drive. So like it has made me, I've saved so much money.
Yeah. Hopefully I will be still in the town and not like super far outside, because I was looking at a couple of places further out and my mom was like, don't do that. She's like, you are a small girl and you're going to live alone in like a national forest. She's like, this is how Stephen King novels start. Like, please don't do that. And I was like, it's a very solid point.
You have your killer dog. We know that he's a killer, right? Squeege.
Yes,
sorry,
my killer 3-legged dog who will definitely lick someone to death. She does have a very scary bark, but unfortunately we've lived in apartments so long that I've mostly trained that out of her.
Attack dog right there. So
dog right there. Yeah. So, but she'll be very excited to have a little yard where she can run around in, and she hates the cold. So I'm going to add a bunch of doggy Carhartt wear to my Amazon wish list if anyone would like to treat her to that.
Here we go. And that's also in your link tree in your Twitter account that you can find your Twitter account.
Yes. Yeah. You can find the link in my Twitter account will take you to my link tree, which has absolutely everything.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, great.
Is it time for Spitfire?
Yeah. So okay.
Adam?
Since this is our first, you're our very first guest for this interview. We decided to start going weekly, and so we're filling our bi-weekly episodes with interviewing. And I wanted to do something different. Sarah hates the idea, so we'll see if it actually looks good. But basically,
I just think it's a little cheesy, is all.
It might be cheesy, but it might be fun. So essentially, we're doing the equivalent of putting like 60 seconds on the clock, and I have 8 questions I'm going to ask you. They're just spitfire, just answer as quickly as you can without really thinking about it. That's all it is, just for fun.
Okay.
You ready?
Ready.
Number 1, who was your first celebrity crush?
Snap from Snap, Crackle, and Pop.
Okay. Fill in the blank. Britney Spears is
a genius.
Number 3, if you could consensually bang any person, real or fictional, who would it be?
Oh, geez. Jack Nicholson from The Shining.
Number 4, say something in a foreign language.
Felix Deus Natalis. Latin for happy birthday.
Yes. Number 5, tell us an obscure fact that you know.
I know so many. Which one am I going to pick? William Mulholland, who brought the aqueduct system to LA, later had his career ruined because of the San Francisco Dam collapse, which is the single largest civil engineering failure in California history, and died penniless, drunk, and alone on Santa Monica Boulevard.
Wow. All right. That's great.
Chinatown is a great movie.
Number 6, what's a topic every school should teach students?
Civics.
Number 7, can money actually buy happiness?
Money can make you buy safety, which can contribute to happiness.
And finally, who would win in a war between dog people and cat people? And by that, I mean people who like dogs versus people not people made of who are half dog, half human, but like dog people versus cat people.
See, the second question would be more interesting. I'm actually going to go with cat people as a dog person, just because they seem to have so much more anger about that.
They really do.
There's just so much more ire there. And I like cats. I'm allergic to them. I can't be around them, but I like them. I'm not anti-cat. I just don't want to live on Benadryl every day.
It's funny. I've seen women send on dating apps that if a guy says he doesn't like cats, it's a red flag. And I'm like, sometimes or they don't have cats. Like sometimes it is an allergy issue. Like I'm
allergic to like almost everything. I went to visit my family for Christmas, and it turns out I'm massively allergic to the laundry detergent my mom uses.
Oh no.
Like she bought like Tide with linen scent, and I was trying to like sleep in this bed, and literally I ended up having to sleep on a like stripped down mattress on the floor that night. Using like my coat as a blanket because I could not breathe with my face against, and I like got hives, and I felt so bad. I like came out the next morning. I was like, I'm really sorry. Like, I'm not trying to be difficult. I cannot breathe. Like, I will stay home from skiing today to like wash everything in a different detergent. But yeah, I'm very sensitive. I was staying with my aunt one time. She has 2 cats, and we'd gotten there in the afternoon. We were about to have dinner, supposed to say. And I like had laid down for a nap, and my whole face was like red, and my eyes had puffed up, and my aunt fucking loves these cats. Right. So I can't like say anything. And I like had to go up to my mom. I think I was like 18 or 19, and was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I will go pay for a hotel room. Like, I can't sleep here, but don't tell her because she'll get really mad. But like, I physically cannot be here for like another 5 minutes. I'm going to die. Yeah. So.
Well, that's
good question, Adam. Good question.
I know it worked out well. That was fantastic. Thank you for trying our Spitfire round. We'll see if we stick with it. Maybe we'll add in sound effects of like a ticking clock or something. I don't know.
If you'd asked me for a good hidden talent, I can say the alphabet backwards.
Oh, that's good.
Like a fun one. Mm-hmm.
Did you learn that just from drinking and just getting pulled over?
No, my great grandfather knew how to do it, and he taught my mom how to do it, and she taught me how to do it when I was a little kid.
Oh, that's awesome.
I never drink and drive, so I've never been
That's
been
good.
pulled over, honestly. I'm a very safe driver. But I know how to do it just in case.
Well, I feel like that's how we have to end this the episode. Then is with you doing this. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
ZYX WV UTS RQP OMN LKJ IHG FED CBA.
Fantastic. That was that's better than I could do it forward. So that's great. Well, once again, you can check out Kate on Twitter at the OG Kennedy, on IG at the PG Kennedy, and of course our OnlyFans at theogkennedy.com.
Oh, and you can also follow Squeegee on Instagram at the OG Squeegee.
Oh, the OG Squeegee.
Aww.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. And you should.
So
I think
cute.
I'm pretty sure I follow that account too. But thank you for being with us on this first interview episode, Kate.
Thank you for having me.
And we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Perfect. See you later.
Bye.
Whether you're married or single or poly or ace, or hanging out with swingers back at your place, listen to us as we give no fuck on Tinder and Bumble and plenty of yucks, trying and having no luck, because we all know dating kinda sucks. Sarah and Adam are two of a kind. He says stupid shit and she doesn't mind. They're not doing this show to make any bucks. Life as a chicken whose feathers they pluck. Why does it work? Well, here is the crux. They both know dating kinda sucks. Dating kinda sucks.